has failed to bring us a clear model and also mechanism how these actions will look like in reality. And me as OG will bring you a new model and mechanism and how this actually look like in the reality. I think there is two big points on how the models look like. First one, we will take all of the asset under the name of this corruption of this corruptor, but we will exclude the asset under the name of the family of this corruptor. Why it is so? Because you see that OO has really has a big concern on the family right, and we want to protect that as a CG. Now on the second models, you see that even if we exclude the family asset, we will still take that asset if that asset is the actions of money laundering of this corruptor. Now on the last model that we have right now as a CG, we will not make the corruptor to be extremely poor in our case, like what OG want in their case. We will make them as a low middle class society in our case, so they still have a possibility to survive in our society, but still in our case they will not have a privilege and also the big privilege that they used to have in their case. Now let's see what OO has brought in these motions and one big responses. Let's see that they mentions about the burden to a burden to stage that will go bigger if we apply this impoverish. But we believe if they offer and also their mechanism is on giving the rehab to this corruptor, it only will make the burden to the state even bigger in their case, because you see that to give a rehabilitation to one person is really expensive, and you can see right now in the status quo how many corruptor that we having right now in the current status quo. It's a big amount of corruption of a corruptor itself. Now let's compare that to a big amount of a burden that will given to the state. It will not work in that case as a OO. Now let's see on the OG. I think OG has a big goals on the preventive actions and etc. But the things that they do not explain to us is how it is possible in their case, or also what kind of a step that could lead us to these big goals. I think this is why their argument at the end of the day cannot stand under this debate. Now as a CG, I will bring you two big points on this motion. The first one on how on the psychology of money. Let's first see what is psychology of money that we having right now in the current status quo. That we do a lot of things to gain money in our society, because we build in this capitalistic society right now, right? Everything is ruled by the money and also your position and etc. Therefore, right now in the status quo, we have a big paradigm of that money is equals to your value as a human being, which means this value will lead you to your positions in the society, your power in society, or even your big connections to other people in politics, business, and etc. Now let's see this paradigm is what built the interest of the corruptor itself. When you see that the big interest when the corruptor want do their actions is to getting more rich, so they have a bigger positions, they have a bigger power to control other people. For example, this is a greediness that this corruptor have in the status quo. Now let's see for this kind of actions and also this kind of interest, what kind of punishment that we possibly could give this corruptor is the one that opposite of their actions. We just take away all of the money, which is their interest in the very first place. Now let's compare this on the criminal justice system that we're having right now in the current status quo, and why this is not going to work in our case, and how we could prevent that in our with this impoverished actions in our case. Now let's see why this is not going to work. 3 reasons why this punishment cannot work. The first one, you see, because the punishment is not directly go and cut away all of the money and also all of the access. They still have a big possibility of access to access a lot of facility in the jail. For example, you see how Setia Novanto can get a really nice place in the jail. For example, this kind of access still exists in their case because they still have this this money that define your value. The second things, you see that the connections of business and also connections of politics is still exist in their case, because they still have the amount of money that define your value, because you know that the connection is built upon your value, because people want to have a connection with you when you have a big value in the society, right? Now let's see, because in the jail system that we're having right now, these people still have this kind of connections. It's possible for them to doing a lot of things. And the last thing, you see that we still leave them with some asset that could possibly help them when they get out of the jail. Now, how it is different in our case when we doing impoverished actions? You see that right now we cut away all of the money and also a lot of asset of this corruptor, which means that we will cut away all of the value of this corruptor, right? Which means when we take away the value of these persons, you see how important is the value to define your positions and also your connection and access, which means in our case this access that this corruptor used to have will be gone in our case as a CG. Now when this access is gone in our case, you see the connection will possibly will be cut too. And now what kind of connection that I actually talk in this motion? I think it's really clear the connections of politics and also business that still happen right now in the status quo. You see people in the jail still have a power to control other people outside of the jail to doing their business, for example. This kind of connection that help them to have a good life, for example. This kind of a thing that we don't want, and we will cut it once you don't have your value anymore. People will not interested to have a connections with you. Now let's see why this is really harmful when you still have a connection, right? Connections as a corruptor. You see the sense of greediness is still exists in their side as a OO when you do not cut all of the money. Second of all, you see even in the jail, because they still have a connection to other people in the jail or even outside of the jail to doing a lot of things. It still helped them in that kind of position. And even the last thing, you see they still have a big control over the police in the jail, for example. You can control other people outside of it, for example. Now let's see, this will make us to the next point, which is the comparison of consequences. You see that because these consequences that will given to this corruptor when they want to do their actions, there is a comparison of consequences that OG has failed to mention in their case, right? Where you see in the case of China, a lot of people, the number of corruptors is really low, because people have a big considerations when they want to doing corruption, for example. And therefore, I'm really proud to propose. Thank you.